Hello, I'm James Henry, and I want to welcome you to these Ash Wednesday reflections. Today is the beginning of a Christian season. If you are not Christian, it's the Christian season of Lent. It is a season of preparation that leads up to Easter, 40 days, often marked by things like fasting and self-reflection that prepare our hearts and minds for the Easter celebration. Ash Wednesday is when it begins, but if you are a counter and you count things, you will count that between today, if today is day one, and Easter is more than 40 days. And that's because the Lenten season does not include Sunday. Sunday is considered a resurrection day. Now, that's all information that may or may not be in any way helpful to you, but it was worth sharing from my point of view. Ritual is a way that often brings us comfort, gives us opportunities to reflect, and offers meaning, perhaps, in times of our lives when we're trying to figure out what is going on. And one of the ways that we often recognize or ritualize a sense of connection in a worship experience, or perhaps in a prayer experience, or any number of places, is that we light a candle. So I'm going to light this candle. There is nothing magical about lighting this candle. It doesn't make God appear in our time together. But what it does do for us is it recognizes God is already present here with us. And this symbol becomes sacred to us, invested with a symbolic reminder that Spirit is here. As the Spirit dances and does what it will, so does the candle flame, etc. The fire of passion for God perhaps burns in our hearts. This symbolic way of saying, here we are together, is this lighted candle. It says, here we are. This space between us is sacred. Across the internet, whenever we're watching this, it's a reminder. Every space, all the time, is sacred, and this space between us now is a sacred space. I invite you to take a deep breath and be present here in this time of reflection together. Part of what we do on Ash Wednesday, the ash part of Ash Wednesday traditionally has been the imposition of ashes, putting ashes on the forehead. You may have already seen, if you're watching this on Ash Wednesday, any number of your siblings here in the world, depending on where you live, who have their foreheads marked with black ash, often in the shape of a cross, although it can be just marked. It doesn't, there's nothing other than to say that is what it is stating, that's what it's showing, that's what it's saying. Today is Ash Wednesday. And those ashes are a representation, a reminder that of our mortality, that we come from ashes, we come from dust, to dust will return, from the earth, from various elements. Now, of course, for us, in today's modern world, we know these bodies of ours are made up of lots of different chemicals and water. And somehow in this wonderful creative process, we are us, this person, this body, this form. But one of the things that we try to avoid, particularly in Western culture, is the idea that one day this mortal body will give way and will no longer be here. Pondering our own death is something that many people might consider to be morbid. But actually, the Lenten season invites us to reflect on our own finite nature, our limited nature, the fact that we are impermanent beings, at least in this form, we are impermanent. And as the spiritual beings that we are, who are having a human experience, there is something beyond this form, we imagine. We don't know exactly what it looks like. People come back and share thoughts about what that is. But the truth is, none of us know what is next. It causes us a certain amount of trepidation, concern, perhaps even fear and anxiety. And when it does that, we do all sorts of things to try to prolong and imagine our lives will go on. We want immortality, but we don't want to die. So what Lent invites us to do is something that our Buddhist siblings in the world do regularly, which is to ponder their impermanence. I am not permanent. Neither are you. Just as we were born, so shall we die. Now, for us as people of Christian faith, we don't believe death is the end, but perhaps a new beginning, a different form, a different way of being, but we don't know exactly what that looks like. And because of that, we do things to try to lengthen our lives, to put off death as long as we can. And we avoid looking at anything. We color our hair. I have nothing against you coloring your hair. If you do, great for you. But we color our hair to try to put off any signs that we are aging. We do lots of things to avoid this idea of death. What I believe Jesus exemplified for us is the opportunity for us to die before we die. He told us that if anyone would come after him, follow in his path, then they must deny themselves, take up their cross and follow him. And of course, the cross was a form of public execution in the first century when Jesus would have said that. And so we are invited, perhaps in Lent, it will be an opportunity for you to do just that, to imagine for yourself dying before you die. Death is the ultimate letting go of our form, of our stuff, of all the ways we deny our pain and other kinds of feelings that we have, thoughts that we have. So if we could learn to die before we die, if we could learn to let go of the things we think we control and have as a part of us, it would probably have a great impact. You know, Richard Rohr writes about this in his little book, Just This. He talks about the need to die before we die. And I thought I'd share that with you today as we were sitting here together, pondering our own impermanence, if you will. Anyone who wants to save his life must lose it. Anyone who loses her life will find it. That's in Matthew 16:23. This passage is a very strong, almost brutal statement of Jesus. It has perhaps been discussed, dismissed, misunderstood, and disagreed with more than almost any of his radical teachings. I believe Jesus says this in such a strong and absolute way because he knows the human ego fixes upon roles, titles, status symbols, and concocted self-images. And he wants us to know that these are passing creations of our own minds and culture. They are not, in that sense, objectively real. All of them must die. All of them must die if we want to be real. And they do not die easily because we have mistaken them for elements of our real self for most of our lives. It is a tragic case of mistaken identity. The real is that to which all the world religions were pointing when they spoke of heaven, nirvana, bliss, eternity, or enlightenment. Our only mistake, was that most Christians delayed this inner state until after we died. This distorted and delayed the whole spiritual journey. When we die before we die, we are surrendering to the real, to union with God now and here, and therefore later too. The human ego wants two things. It wants to be separate and it wants to be superior. This is why Jesus says this self must die for something much better to be found. The reality for each of us in this world is death is a bit frightening. It's hard to make peace with, especially when it's so unknown, when the parameters of it are unclear. All we know is what we've observed in others, people whom we've loved, people, sometimes not people, animals. Just in the other room, we have a box that contains the ashes of our first family dog, Buddy. And we have those ashes around. It's not Buddy anymore. Buddy was much more than that, than those ashes that remain in that container. And yet, for the human eye, that's what we see when a person goes, is those ashes, that dust, that empty husk that is the body. And we wonder what is life, and we wonder what really matters. Well, Ash Wednesday invites us to a period of reflecting on how our impermanence is real, how mortal we truly are. And that actually sets us free. As we begin to realize that our life is limited, it does not go on forever, even if we prolong it for a couple of years. To what end? What will we do with those prolonged years if we don't have an impact on one another, if we don't learn to love better, bigger, and become who we are? I come from a line of people who live long, and they live long and beautiful lives. Both my parents, who probably will watch this, are still here. Dad and mom are still around, and they set an example for me of what a meaningful life can be. They still engage with us. They still talk to us. They still share wisdom with the three of us. I'm the eldest of three. And they've shown me what a good long life looks like. But sometimes in our society, we're all about just living longer. And we imagine living longer is living more. That reminds me of a quote that I remember from the movie Braveheart. You know, everyone dies. When threatened with death, William Wallace says, everyone dies. Not everyone truly lives. We are invited to truly live, but part of truly living is recognizing that eventually we will die. I don't know what the next place looks like from here, but I know what this place looks like. And I know that part of being here is an invitation to engage with my limited capacities and my limited abilities to the best of my ability through grace and love from God, to engage that love with the rest of the world. That's what Ash Wednesday begins, is the opportunity for us to reflect on that, to make a sacred practice of saying, I won't go on forever in this form. What can I do about being me now? The me that God always imagined I would be, the gift that I am to my neighbor. There are many reflections, even country songs, about what to do when you come to the realization that life is limited. And part of that is to really live, to seize the moment and the day, and to give our lives away in love to the other, recognizing that so many of the things we give our lives away to, endless hours so that we can make more money, consume more things, that those don't really give meaning to our lives. We discover that once we have things that we imagined would make us happy, that we need more things to make us happy. One of the ways we avoid thinking about our death is consuming lots of things, whether it's food or other substances, alcohol and drugs, other things that stuff, faster things, bigger things, prettier things, newer things that allow us to imagine for a moment or forget for a moment about our own limited nature. I'm not saying don't enjoy your life, because I think that that's really important. But I am saying that in your finite life, is what is most important the accumulation of things, or is it the giving away of love and friendship with others, sharing your life, building a community, opening a door? I mean, these are the kinds of things that I think make a life worth living. To die to the things that aren't real so that we can really live. Seeing suffering, not turning our eyes away, but seeing suffering and helping to carry the suffering of others, and perhaps intervening to help end the suffering of others. Those are possibilities, but part of it is recognizing I can't do everything. What can I do? What can I do with this one wonderful form filled life that has been given me, entrusted to my care? You know, a passage of scripture often used is from Genesis. It's a beautiful piece from my perspective, and I'll read it to you from chapter 3, often used on Ash Wednesday. It's chapter 3, verse 19. This is God speaking to human beings. With sweat on your brow, you shall eat your bread until you return to the soil, as you were taken from it. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. Very sobering, perhaps not what you want to hear on a Wednesday that also happens to be this year Valentine's Day. Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day fall upon the same day. Of course, St. Valentine, since this is St. Valentine's Day, it's the day we celebrate his death. He's known for loving, for being for loving his fellow human beings with a great passion. And that is why we remember him. And that is why he's a saint, for all that love. So in the example of St. Valentine, I want to invite you to this season of reflection. Think about what you really want to do with this one wild and beautiful life you've been given. As I thought about impermanence yesterday, while I watched snowflakes fall from a sky onto a warm ground that melted immediately, I thought of the beauty of each snowflake, who is just the snowflake it is until it melts and becomes part of the water cycle all over again. And I wonder if each one of us might do the same. What are the ways you're being called right now to engage yourself in this world and take seriously the struggles of this world and go more deeply? I do want to say to you that during the season of Lent, I will be doing on Sundays, the Sundays before Easter, the next 6 Sundays, I will be doing a series entitled Healing Journeys, Embracing Grief and Presence. We'll talk a little bit about the collective grief we experience in a world that's not what we thought it would be and doesn't live up to our golden age expectations of what it was, our memories of what it was at one point, how that longing affects us in this world. And we'll work our way through some practices that help us to truly be present with one another, perhaps live more fully, but to die to the illusions that keep us separate from God and one another. So that is my intent for the days ahead in this season. For you, I wish you all the best on this Ash Wednesday / Valentine's Day. May the peace of God, which surrounds us all, envelop you. May you feel the loving presence of Spirit wherever you are, whenever you are watching this. And may you feel the love and grace that is given you freely as the infinitely precious and unconditionally loved gift you already are. Go in peace, my